You ever have one of those nights that feels like the whole world's just out to crush you? That was tonight. Rain poured like it had a personal grudge, slamming the pavement in waves. The city lights, those flickering, sad little neon signs, barely pushed back the darkness, casting strange reflections in puddles and pooling shadows in every corner. The streets were empty, even the rats seemed to have taken the night off. Just the low roll of thunder bouncing off the buildings reminded me I wasn't totally alone. But to be honest, the storm outside wasn't even close to the one inside me. I stood there, leaning against the side of a half-collapsed building, the brick cold and damp against my back. My breath came out in little clouds, and my fingers clung to a bottle of bottom-shelf whiskey like it was the only thing left tethering me to this planet. My body used to be strong, military strong. Now it just looked worn down, like a machine pushed too far for too long. The scars on my hands told their own kind of story. Not just from combat overseas, but the kind of fights that come after, the kind you don't get medals for. My name's Mason. I used to be a soldier. Hell, a good one, too. But the war didn't stay over there when I came home. It followed me, got inside me like smoke that never clears. Coming back to a country that moved on without me? That was the real battlefield. No job offers, no calls from old friends. Just this feeling like I was falling into some hole I couldn't claw my way out of. But tonight felt different. There was something in the air more than just rain. Something restless. And just as I was thinking maybe I'd had enough of everything, I heard it. A sharp cry that cut through the storm. At first, I thought it might be the whiskey playing tricks. But then I heard it again, louder this time, scared. Real scared. Without thinking, I shoved off the wall, adrenaline burning through the fog in my head. Instincts kicked in. They always did. There's one thing the military drills into you: when someone's in danger, you move. No debate. No delay. I followed the sound down a slick alley. What I saw stopped me cold. 3 guys. 1 woman. She was backed into the wall, soaked and shaking. One of them had her by the wrist, tight. Another was tearing through her bag like it was a prize chest. Her eyes, wide and wild, were looking for a way out. But there wasn't one. Something in me snapped. This wasn't just a mugging. It was cruel, calculated. I felt something rise in me I hadn't felt in years, fury, clear and hot. For a second, time paused. Rain kept pounding the pavement, her muffled cries blended into the noise. And then I stepped forward. Let her go. 3 words. Calm, steady, but with weight. The kind of tone that comes from giving orders under gunfire. The thugs turned and froze like they could feel something dangerous standing in front of them. They didn't know who I was, but they knew enough to hesitate. That's all I needed. I charged. Years of training took over. The first guy caught my fist square in the jaw and dropped like a sack of bricks. The second came at me with a blade, but I sidestepped and locked his arm, twisting until he dropped the knife with a yelp. The third? He just stood there, torn between fight and flight. My eyes locked on his. Run. He did. Fast. Left his buddies behind in the gutter. I stood there, breathing hard. Rain dripping off my jacket. And then I turned to her. She was shaking, soaked through, hair stuck to her face. But her eyes, they held something solid. Something that hadn't broken. You all right? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady but gentle. She clutched her bag tight, nodded. Didn't say a word, but I could see it in her face. She'd fight, too, if she had to. She just needed someone to remind her how. Thanks, she said, her voice so soft I almost missed it through the storm. I nodded, unsure how to respond. Gratitude wasn't something I'd been expecting. I just did what felt right. But standing there with her, soaked and shivering, something in me shifted. Maybe it was hope or just the faintest sense that I wasn't completely lost. The rush of adrenaline started to wear off, leaving behind this strange, sharp clarity. She looked fragile, yeah, but there was something more beneath that soaked exterior. Her eyes, sharp and focused, scanned me like she was trying to figure out what I was really made of. And I could tell this wasn't the first time she'd faced danger. There was something in the way she stood firm, controlled. The kind of calm that doesn't come from luck, but from experience. I'd seen that look before, usually in people who knew how to fight their way through chaos. Who are you? She asked, steady, even though I could see her hands still trembling. I shrugged, trying to play it off. Just a guy passing through. But I knew it wasn't that simple. She looked at me like she was peeling back layers, trying to get to the truth behind my tired eyes and beat-up shell. And oddly enough, I respected that. Then she hit me with a question I wasn't ready for. Why'd you help me? It wasn't just curiosity. It felt like a test. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to give some throwaway line. But something about her made me want to be honest. I couldn't just walk away, I said. Nobody should be treated like that. She nodded, slow and thoughtful, and then offered me her hand. Name's Sabrina, she said. And I owe you one. Her handshake was firm. No hesitation. And in that moment, something clicked. A silent understanding passed between us. We'd both seen things, faced things most people couldn't imagine. She wasn't just some random stranger I helped in the rain. There was more to her. A lot more. Even with her clothes soaked and dirt on her face, she stood tall. There was this simmering anger in her, but it wasn't wild, it was focused, like a blade being sharpened. And I knew right then she wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. Maybe even a fighter, like me. It hit me slowly, like the sun creeping up after a long, dark night. This wasn't just a fluke. Meeting her felt like a turning point. Like maybe, just maybe, my life still had a purpose. We didn't say much more after that, but I could feel it, respect, recognition, something real forming between us. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely alone. Then she motioned for me to follow, and I did, through a series of dim, winding hallways that looked nothing like the broken city we'd just left behind. Every step echoed through the corridor, each one making me more aware of the strange new world I was stepping into. The walls were lined with steel panels and high-tech surveillance gear. Cameras tracked our movements with mechanical precision. My senses were on full alert, every reinforced door, every motion-sensing device, logged in my mind without even thinking. This place wasn't a hideout. It was a fortress. Sabrina walked with purpose, her heels clicking against the floor, keeping a steady rhythm like a drumbeat. She glanced back once or twice to make sure I was still behind her, her expression unreadable, but something in her gaze told me I could trust her. "You're safe here," she said softly. It wasn't loud, but the way she said it, it carried weight. Like a promise. I nodded, though my eyes kept scanning. Old habits. Couldn't shut them off if I tried. Eventually, we stopped at a heavy steel door. With a hiss of pressurized air, it slid open to reveal a room lit by a warm, golden glow. Inside, a group of people sat around a sleek oval table. Holograms hovered above it, flickering with maps, data feeds, things I didn't yet understand. But I could tell they weren't playing around. The room hummed with quiet energy. Everyone in there had a job, and they were locked in. Still, every pair of eyes turned to me as I stepped in. No words were spoken, but I could feel it. I just walked into something big. As we stepped into the room, Sabrina's hand brushed my arm, a small gesture, but one that eased the tension I hadn't even realized I was carrying. "This," she said, her voice stronger now, "is the heart of what we do." Heads turned. Conversations stopped. The people at the long, oval table looked up from glowing screens and scattered intel, their eyes landing on me with a mix of curiosity and calculation. I felt it immediately, that subtle pressure, like I was being measured without a word spoken. So I straightened up. Old habits. Let them see I wasn't just some drifter pulled in off the street. I met their eyes, one by one, the way I used to do in the field. Confident. Controlled. Even if, on the inside, I was still trying to figure out what the hell I just walked into. "This is Mason Cole," Sabrina said. "He saved my life tonight. And he did it with the kind of precision and nerve that few people carry." Her words hit like a spotlight. I wasn't used to being called out like that, not since the military. Praise made me more uncomfortable than gunfire. I'd always preferred the shadows. But there was no dodging it now. Everyone was watching. One guy stood up tall, squared shoulders, probably ex-military himself. His face looked like it had seen a few too many winters, and his eyes had that laser-cut edge of someone who'd spent years living in the gray areas. "We don't hand out trust easily here," he said, stepping forward. He extended a hand. "But Sabrina vouches for you. That means something. Welcome aboard." I shook his hand. Firm grip. Eyes locked. No fake smiles. Just a quiet agreement between two men who knew what it meant to put it all on the line. I didn't say much. I was still trying to wrap my head around what this place was, what they were. But as I listened in on the briefings and the coded chatter filling the room, things started clicking together. They were off the books. Operated outside the law, above it in some ways. A rogue unit working to dismantle the rot infecting the city, crime syndicates, dirty officials, the kind of people who thrived in the cracks of the system. This crew? They were the ones prying those cracks wide open. Everyone here had a specialty, tech wizards who could tap into anything, strategists running multi-layered ops, field agents with scars and stories like mine. And despite not knowing a single one of them, I felt connected. Like I'd finally stumbled into a place that ran on the same unspoken code I did. We ended the tour in what they called the command center. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. Giant screens beamed real-time feeds from across the city, maps dotted with signals, comms buzzing in every corner. People moved with purpose, never wasting a second. It wasn't chaos, it was organized intensity. A war room for a war no one knew was being fought. Sabrina stepped beside me again, her voice low but firm. "This is where it happens." Where we fight back. She looked at me and something in her eyes hit deep. You've already proven you belong here, she said. And we could use someone like you. Something in those words cracked open a part of me I thought had gone numb. Purpose. Belonging. I hadn't felt that in a long time. She led me back to the main table. Everyone had gathered again, and as she motioned for me to take the seat at the head, I hesitated for just a second. The moment felt heavy, like the kind that only comes around once or twice in a lifetime. I sat down. Eyes turned to me, not just assessing anymore, but accepting. Sabrina stood beside me, calm and commanding. Then she addressed the room. Mason isn't just the guy who saved me tonight, she said. He's a soldier. A protector. A man who knows the weight of sacrifice. Then she turned to me, her voice dropping just enough to pull me in. What I'm about to offer you, she said, isn't a job. It's a cause. A chance to use everything you've been through, everything you've lost, to fight for something that matters. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. You've seen the worst humanity has to offer. Now I'm asking you to stand with us and fight back. Her words hit me harder than I expected, like a gut punch wrapped in something strangely hopeful. Redemption. Purpose. Justice. These weren't just lofty ideals anymore. They were real now, right in front of me, breathing down my neck. I wanted to answer her, to say something that matched the weight of the moment, but my voice caught in my throat. My eyes flicked around the room, landing on the people still watching me. They weren't just curious anymore. There was respect in their stares, but also expectation. Sabrina leaned in, voice soft like she knew exactly what I was wrestling with. You don't have to decide tonight, she said, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. But think about it. Think about what we could do together. We could stop the people who feed off the weak. We could stop the next alley from turning into a battlefield. She paused. And you could finally have a reason to keep going. I didn't answer right away. My mind was spinning. The idea of joining something like this, an underground force taking the fight to the darkest corners of the city, was thrilling. It lit something in me I thought had gone out long ago. But it also scared the hell out of me. Could I walk away from what little life I had left behind? What if I couldn't trust them? What if I couldn't trust myself? I need time, I finally said, my voice rough with everything I wasn't saying. She gave a small nod. Take all the time you need, she said. But understand something, we don't make offers like this every day. You've earned this. We believe in you, Mason. The room stayed quiet as I pushed back from the table. My legs felt like they'd forgotten how to hold me. Still, I nodded to the group, my silent thank you, and followed Sabrina out of the command center. The air outside that room felt heavier somehow. Her offer wasn't just a job or a mission. It was a lifeline. But stepping into something that big meant giving up the past and risking everything again. For now, I just walked. One step at a time into a future that felt like both a threat and a promise. The next few days dragged by, long and loud with nothing but my own thoughts. I walked the city aimlessly, past bright signs and crowded sidewalks. None of it brought me any peace. The noise outside only mirrored the mess inside. I kept thinking about everything I'd seen. The ghosts of my past didn't care that I might have a second shot. They still showed up, the friends I'd lost, the missions that went sideways, the cold return home to a world that didn't need me anymore. But now there was also something else. Hope. For the first time in years, I wasn't just remembering who I was wondering who I could be. Maybe the skills that war gave me could actually be used for something better. Maybe Sabrina saw that in me before I even saw it in myself. I ended up at a quiet park one afternoon. Sat down on a worn bench under a tree with just enough shade to hide in. In the distance, a dad was helping his kid ride a bike for the first time. The boy laughed every time he wobbled, fearless in a way only kids can be. That sound, it cracked me wide open. All I could think was, that's what I want to protect. It wasn't just about fighting thugs in alleys anymore. It was about going after the kind of evil that creates them. The systems. The silence. The monsters in suits who profit off pain. And suddenly I knew. I walked back into the headquarters with a different kind of weight in my chest. Not doubt, purpose. People looked up as I came in. No one said anything. Just a few nods. The kind of welcome you get when you're expected. When you belong. I found Sabrina in the command center. She turned as I entered, and for a moment I saw something in her eyes I hadn't expected: relief. Maybe even hope. I've made my decision, I said, my voice steady. I want in. I paused, then added, not just for me. For everyone out there who doesn't get the chance to fight back. Her smile was quiet, but powerful. She stepped forward, extended her hand again. Welcome to the team, Mason. I shook her hand, and that simple gesture felt like a contract written in steel. A promise. A vow. Around us, the hum of the command center returned, people back at their stations, prepping for the next mission. The energy had shifted, and I felt it settle in my bones. Something inside me had changed. The pain and guilt I'd carried for so long? They weren't chains anymore. They were fuel. I wasn't just an ex-soldier clawing at redemption. I was part of something bigger now, a force with direction. A family with a mission. And together we were going to burn the darkness down, one act of courage at a time. From the moment I officially joined the organization, everything changed. Life turned into a blur of training drills, tactical meetings, and high-risk operations. Every day was a challenge physically, mentally, emotionally. And I loved it. For the first time in years, I was being pushed again. Not just to survive, but to excel. The training was brutal, designed to stretch me in every direction. It wasn't just about staying sharp, it was about being smarter. Faster. More calculated. I had to relearn how to anticipate threats before they even emerged, how to read a room like a battlefield, how to lead in the shadows. Under Sabrina's sharp but steady guidance, I started finding my rhythm again. It didn't take long for the others to take notice. I wasn't trying to stand out, but something about coordinating operations, keeping people calm under pressure, it came naturally. Maybe it always had. Then came my first big mission, a deep dive into one of the city's nastiest criminal networks. We were tasked with infiltrating a syndicate that had its roots tangled in everything from trafficking to black market weapons. My team and I walked straight into the fire. Every step through that operation was nerve-wracking. Every hallway, every turn, every flicker of movement, it could all mean death. But my instincts didn't fail me. The chaos sharpened me, not shook me. And when everything came to a head, it was fast, brutal, and clear, either act or fall. We won. Barely. But we did it. Stopped a major attack before it ever launched. That single mission shifted everything. I'd proven myself not just to them, but to myself. From there, things moved fast. Promotions, trust, bigger assignments. I went from being the new guy on the ground to someone they leaned on for decisions that could make or break entire operations. The shift was intense. I wasn't just in the field anymore, I was helping to lead it. Balancing that wasn't easy. I missed the action sometimes. The grit. But I also knew my experience could do more than break down doors, it could shape strategy. I saw the bigger picture. And I knew what it meant to lose people, to make the wrong call. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from books. It comes from scars. Even as my responsibilities grew, I never stopped looking out for the newer recruits. I remembered what it felt like to be dropped into a world you didn't quite understand, trying to pretend you weren't scared. So I talked to them. Taught them. Listened. Because this wasn't just a mission, it was a team. And teams only work when you build them up from the inside. Eventually, I was asked to take the lead. Head of operations. I won't lie, it was a heavy title. It came with decisions that could change lives in seconds. But I stepped into it knowing I'd earned it, and more importantly, knowing what was at stake. We weren't just fighting to take down criminals. We were working to prevent them from ever getting the chance. I pushed hard for innovation, better tech, better intel, more forward-thinking strategies. We couldn't just react anymore. We had to stay ahead. But through it all, I never lost sight of who we were, why we did this. I made it a point to lead with both strength and empathy. I wanted people to feel heard, respected, empowered. And because of that, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Looking back, I'd come a long way from the broken man with a bottle of whiskey in a dark alley. That version of me had been lost, searching for a reason to keep going. Now, I found it. Purpose didn't just save me, transformed me. And maybe that's what this was all about. Taking the pain, the regret, the failures, and turning them into something that could help. That could protect. That evening, as the sun dipped low over the city, painting the skyline in amber and purple, I found myself standing on a rooftop, just watching. The wind tugged at my coat, carrying the sounds of the streets below. Horns, chatter, laughter. Life. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, loud, unpredictable. But it was worth protecting. I let out a slow breath, the kind you don't even realize you've been holding. For a rare moment, I let myself feel the weight of everything that had brought me here. And then I smiled just a little, because for the first time in a long, long time, I knew exactly who I was. Funny how one moment can change everything. It all started with a decision, a split-second choice in a rain-soaked alley. I didn't think twice back then, just acted. I never could have guessed that pulling one woman out of danger would pull me into something far bigger. That moment of instinct, of kindness, it ended up being the turning point of my life. Back then, I was spiraling, lost in the wreckage of who I used to be. haunted by the things I'd seen, the things I'd done. War had carved pieces out of me, pieces I wasn't sure I'd ever get back. Purpose? Gone. Trust? Shattered. Hope? Didn't even feel like an option. But saving Sabrina that night, it did something I didn't expect. It lit a spark. Not a fire, not yet, but something. And over time, that flicker grew, fueled by the belief that even the smallest acts of courage can send ripples through the world. That belief carried me through the darkest nights, through blood, sweat, and hard decisions, through missions that tested every limit I thought I had. It gave meaning to the chaos, and slowly, I began to see what I was fighting for. Not just justice, but something deeper, something human. Now, standing here at the top of this organization I once thought I'd never be good enough for, I finally understand. I didn't just find a cause. I found people, family, a team forged in fire, every one of us carrying our own scars, our own battles, but all moving forward together. We've dismantled criminal empires, exposed the rot buried deep inside powerful institutions. We've protected those who had no one else. But more than anything, we've built something that lasts. A movement grounded in resilience, in truth, in the kind of hope that doesn't fade when things get hard. I know the fight isn't over. The shadows don't disappear just because we push them back. And the cost of failure? It's high. But we're not going anywhere. We're stronger now, united, sharpened by everything we've been through. As I turned to leave the rooftop, I took one last look at the city below. Lights flickering. Life happening. Somewhere out there, someone was laughing. Somewhere else, someone was hurting. I thought of her, Sabrina, the one who helped pull me from the edge with nothing more than strength and a quiet fire in her eyes. And I thought of every life we've touched since. Every person who reminded me why this fight matters. The road ahead won't be easy. We'll face more losses, more danger. There'll be days where it feels like we're barely holding the line. But there will also be victories. Connection. That quiet, powerful knowing that what we're doing matters. That we are making a difference. I smiled, just a little. Redemption isn't a place you arrive at. It's a path you choose to walk. Every single day. Takes work. Takes resolve. And it takes believing, even when the world gives you every reason not to, that good is still worth fighting for. So I walked down the stairs, back into the heart of it all, ready for whatever came next, because I made a promise that night to protect, to persevere, and to never, ever give up.